It's time for the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games at Southern Utah University in Cedar City. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of a Utah sports tradition at utahsummergames.org. Participate in over 50 sports around the state. Then plan to join the opening ceremonies Friday, June 5th, presented by State Bank of Southern Utah. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games. Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Tusk Top.
DJ, PK, Springsteen, and Brian Geltzeiler, Sirius XM NBA radio host and NBA TV contributor. Brian, good morning.
Good morning. It song makes me melancholy, guys. Like longing for the days where you could put your kid on your lap and let him steer the car without getting pulled over and arrested for endangering a minor.
Oh, man. What happened to those days?
Where'd they go, right?
I know. So Dad wanted to put me on a lap.
My dad did that with me.
Mom's yelling, it's not safe.
And plus,
if I had done that with my kid, I would have done 5 to 10.
And if you were like mine, both parents with the windows up smoking.
There you go, right?
Have some secondhand smoke, kid.
That's funny. What's doing, boys?
There are multiple stories going here in Utah. Let's start with the Jazz and the number 2 pick in the draft. What would you do if you were running the Jazz, and what do you think the Jazz will do? And if you want to start with what the Wizards are going to do, then maybe you need to start there. But unpack it for us. What are you expecting? And we'll give you a little bit of a pass, knowing full well there could be new info in the next couple of weeks and all this could change. But what are you thinking now?
Listen, I think it's going to be pretty simple for the Jazz. If the Wizards take Dybantsa, take Darryn Peterson. If the Wizards take Darryn Peterson, take A.J. Dybantsa. And it's that simple. Listen, I love Caleb Wilson. I think he's going to be an excellent player in the NBA. I just would never want to be the team president or the GM that passed on either Dybantsa or Peterson. So if you have one of them there to grab, you got to grab one of them. I think sometimes we can look at the top of a draft and overcomplicate things. This is not really something that's overcomplicated. For all the hand-wringing over Darryn Peterson, he still averaged 20 points a game in 19 games, playing for Kansas on a top-level schedule. And even with the cramping issues and some of it being his agent, kind of forgetting the fact that Kansas paid him a lot of money to be there and worry about your NBA career, even with all of those things, once he signs an NBA contract and hits the NBA, the kid has been acting like a pro and handling himself like a pro from early stages of high school. So I wouldn't be terribly worried about him. And I think for the Jazz, this is a simple decision. Whatever the Wizards do, take the other guy.
A couple things there that, they can have an opportunity to trade. But to me, there's 4 guys of the Jazz right now that I wouldn't consider trading. It's the 2 big guys, Markkanen Jackson, Keontae George, and Ace Bailey. Do you view them as something that the Jazz, if they really, really wanted Dybantsa, because if they really want him, they can get him. But I don't want him at the price of having to move any of those 4.
I would agree with that. Listen, I would tell you this. If somebody made you a Godfather deal for Markkanen at that salary, you'd have to listen to it. The problem is no one's making you a Godfather deal for Markkanen at that salary. Those salaries in excess of $50 million, and we've talked about that, guys, are hard to move no matter how good the player is. And listen, one of the reasons the Jazz got Jaren Jackson Jr. for what I think was a discounted price for the player that he is because of how hard those higher salaries are to move. So, would I give Ace Bailey to move up from 2 to 1? The answer is absolutely not. I mean, Keontae George, would I consider it? Maybe, but I don't think the Wizards are doing that. So I just listen. If I'm the Wizards, I'm not trading out of this number 1 pick. This is a draft where the Wizards spent a whole lot of time. The Jazz too, by the way. The Pacers. We can keep going with all the teams. They spent months doing everything they could to be bad to get this pick. The Wizards got it. Where are you trading it? What are you doing with it? I mean, yeah, again, you can get a Godfather offer to go from 1 to 2 and look at it, but I don't know on any planet if that makes sense for the Jazz. Both of these teams are likely to get players that are going to be transcendent types of players for their organizations. Lean into your luck. Take the guy that's available for you to take there. And again, I say this, guys, I love Caleb Wilson. I would take him ahead of Cam Boozer. I know there's some consideration for Cam Boozer at the Jazz too that I've heard, and I love Cam Boozer. I think he's going to be a very good NBA player. I just think that's kind of absurd because the other 3 guys are athletically superior to him, and I think you have to make sure you're taking especially when the skill and ability are also there. I think you have to take the best athlete that you can get your hands on. And to me, again, I look at Dybantsa and Peterson and Caleb Wilson as significantly better athletes than Cam Boozer.
And for the people who are listening to this and they're freaking out thinking, man, I just don't trust Peterson to play in this era. He's going to be like Embiid. He's going to be playing 40 games a year and taking himself out. And you don't have any fear of that? You think that whatever happened in Kansas was kind of weird and it was a year of college basketball and it didn't look great, but it doesn't say anything going forward about his availability and his talent?
I don't think, listen, availability-wise, he had a cramping problem. They're saying it was related to creatine. Maybe that's true. Maybe that's not true. But it was enough of an issue that his camp felt the need to address it in pre-draft stuff. And I think that element is important because there's a degree of accountability behind it. And don't get me wrong, Darryn Peterson wants to be the number 1 pick. They're going to say whatever they have to say to get there. But they didn't want to ignore it. They wanted to make sure that they addressed it. And I think what's important to understand is that the public view of Darryn Peterson has only been what they've seen at Kansas. What he did in high school, what he did in the AAU circuit, he was never that guy. And listen, I have a unique perspective on Darryn Peterson because my radio partner, Sam Mitchell, coached him for 3 summers in AAU and knows Darryn and Darryn's family very well. Darryn's a serious basketball player. Darryn's serious about being out on the floor, and some of this was maybe getting missteered by an agent a little bit, but I think his family's kind of on board with the fact that was not the right approach. And I think they look at it this way, is that approach may cost him something. It may have cost him the number 1 overall pick, which I think means a lot to him. So my point is this. If you get Peterson at 2, my opinion, knowing what I know about Darryn Peterson, is you're going to get a really highly skilled, motivated young player with a chip on his shoulder to prove that his detractors are dead wrong. So I think if Dybantsa goes 1, you take Peterson 2, and you don't think twice. It's not a pick you should be holding your nose while you're making. You bring this kid in and you let him do what he does because I think he's going to be a very, very special NBA player.
Okay, then you just said something to me that is really profound and is causing me to just eliminate the thinking that I might have had negatively about Darryn Peterson, because I got the satellite radio. I listen to your show. I know Coach Mitchell calls you Geltz and all that stuff, and I can go back and forth. And to me, this guy is a walking encyclopedia of basketball as a player and a coach. And now, obviously, he's doing it in media stuff. And if at that point, if I'm Ryan Smith, Danny Ainge, Austin Ainge, I just make one phone call. There's a lawyer out here. One phone call. That's all he uses as his advertising campaign. And I make it to Sam Mitchell. And if you're telling me, Geltz, that Sam Mitchell signs off on Darryn Peterson, I'm not sure I need any more proof that he's the guy to take if he's available if Sam Mitchell is signing off on him.
Listen, Sam knows him better than anybody. He really does. And listen, when they were choosing where to go to college, Sam was involved in that process too. And there was at times, and I'm not going to, name names in this, but there was times that I know Sam had conversations with coaches that didn't necessarily match his energy for Darryn. And Sam's opinion was that if you're not matching the enthusiasm that I have for this kid, after I've coached this kid for 3 summers, maybe you shouldn't get him. Maybe you shouldn't go there. And Sam passed that along to Darryn's dad and Darryn's family and let them know, listen, this team may not be they may tell you they're hot on you, but they're not as hot on you as you think. Sam has an incredible amount of faith in Darryn Peterson. I will also say this, guys, and I think it's very, very important to note this as while we're talking about Sam. Sam's the same guy that picked the Knicks to win the NBA championship, and he picked the Knicks Spurs in his final. And I find that very interesting. He also picked Minnesota upset Denver in the first round. So Sam's kind of on his game these days. So when Sam's telling me all these things about Darryn Peterson, and listen, we have plenty of guests from the college basketball world that have different opinions about Darryn Peterson on our show. Sam will bet to whoever we're talking to, whether it's Fran Fraschilla, Jay Billis, Sam will back Darryn in every way. He has, an unwavering belief in not only who the kid is, but who the kid can be.
Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Tusk Top.
Does Sam still think the Thunder and the Spurs is going to go to the Spurs?
He does. I do too, by the way. Guys, I do too. I think the Spurs what's happened in Game 5 is going to end up being a little bit of fool's gold for the Thunder, and follow my logic here. I mean, guys, in all the years of watching basketball, and you guys been around a while, have you ever seen, forget about a player, a team that flopped more than Oklahoma City flopped in Game 5? I mean, guys, I've taken heat in the NBA media world because I'm generally pro-flop, because I believe it's a part of gamesmanship, and it's the responsibility of the referees to sniff that stuff out. That was too much for me. Every time somebody shoots the ball, they're falling on the ground. And the refs fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. What did Shai Gilgeous-Alexander have, 33 points on 7 made field goals? Yeah. Are you kidding me? Like, it was a parade to the free throw line. And on the other end, Isaiah Hartenstein, and I give him credit, he's been the second most important player for the Thunder in the series. He's beating the crap out of Victor Wembanyama. And so I think there was the officiating. I'm not blaming the loss there because Oklahoma City played very well. And Jared McCain has been an enormously important player for them in this series in the absence of Jalen Williams and A.J. Mitchell. With all that said, when there's going to be a light here shined on the officiating, and I think we're done with blowouts in this series. I think it's going to be close games the rest of the way, and you're going to get a close game. That could tip the scales towards San Antonio, because here's the other thing with San Antonio. What's happening to Wembanyama off the ball, the referees are a little too focused on what's happening on the ball, and I think that's an adjustment San Antonio has to make. You're hearing a lot of people talking about Wembanyama getting more touches deeper in the paint. I actually think where he gets the touches aren't even as important. He just has to have the ball, and part of that, and I would use him in inverted pick and rolls as an initiator on the wing on offense, put it in his hands and let a smaller guy, I mean, everybody's a smaller guy when it comes to Wembanyama, but let a guard screen for him and let him work that way and make Hartenstein guard him in space a little bit. What's going to happen? The physicality of Hartenstein is going to be noticed by the officials more. And here's the thing. It's so important for San Antonio. If they can get Isaiah Hartenstein in foul trouble and get him off the floor, Wembanyama then becomes unguardable for OKC. So I think you have a lot of light shined on how Game 5 was officiated, and I think as you go into Game 6, that's a massive, massive advantage for the San Antonio Spurs, because the listen, there's a missed goaltend, and then the next play, the ball goes out of Chet Holmgren's foot. The referee ignores Mitch Johnson, who certainly made the challenge signal in enough time, and maybe we have to have NBA coaches throwing red flags like we have NFL coaches, because the fact is you got to be able to go back and look at it on video and stop that game and say that man asked for a challenge before play started. And so that was another big problem. But again, all these officiating issues that have had a massive light shined on them and a spotlight put on them here in the off day, those are going to play a role. The officials in tonight's game are not going to want to get trashed like Tony Brothers' crew got trashed after what happened in Game 5. And I think that's going to be massive, massive for the San Antonio Spurs and more involvement for Victor Wembanyama. The other thing is this for the Spurs. The guards have to be more patient. De'Aaron Fox especially. De'Aaron Fox has played very poorly in this series, and there's a direct correlation to Wembanyama's lack of touches and De'Aaron Fox being on the floor. He's going to have to play through Wembanyama a heck of a lot more. And the other thing is Castle's got to be more patient. If you don't get it to Wembanyama Wembanyama on the first look. You got to go back for a second and a third and a fourth and a possession. You can't just default to threes off the dribble. So that San Antonio's got some changes to make. But if you hear everything I'm saying, it's all pretty simple for them outside of the officiating. On the defensive end of the floor, listen, go back to your Game 4 formula. Let Shea get his. If you have to switch everything and Shea gets his, fine, let him get his. But you can't have Alex Caruso getting 20 and Jared McCain getting 21. Those guys have to be guarded much better, and San Antonio's deep enough on the defensive end of the floor that those guys shouldn't be hard to shut down.
I'm excited that the Knicks are in the finals. I'm going to tell you a little story. I'm going to go back in the memory bank. 1973. I'm living in Parsippany, New Jersey. I'm best buddies with the mayor's son. The mayor was a guy named Henry Luther. His son, Michael, who later became mayor of Parsippany. Henry has, well, I was his best friend. So Mayor Luther has tickets to the Knicks and the Lakers in the NBA Finals, and they invite me. And my father, who grew up in East Orange and loved basketball, was just as jealous as could possibly be because they didn't have an extra ticket for him. And his dorky son gets to go to the Garden. And I remember sitting there in 1973 and looking at, you're telling me that's Walt Frazier right there, that's Jerry West right there, Willis Reed is over here, and Wilt Chamberlain's over there. I was in heaven. And I remember the area, the New York, New Jersey, all that, and even into Connecticut, although I don't consider Connecticut much, but that's just me. The point is that, man, the town, the city, the area, the region was just electric. And I remember it to this day. And I can only imagine what it's going to be now with the Knicks being there. Tell us how it is as far as the whole area, the region, with the Knicks in the finals this year.
Here's what I'm going to say about the New York metropolitan area, okay? What you have, PK, here is a situation where when the Knicks are great like this, not good, great like this, the Knicks are the biggest thing there is. Bigger than the Giants, bigger than the Rangers, bigger than the Yankees. I'm going to say it again, bigger than the Yankees. It's the biggest thing going in this area. And so much of it with the Knicks is based upon the kind of nostalgia that you just talked about. Now, listen, my father was a Hall of Fame college basketball player at New York Rutgers from 1945 to 1950. When my father, he was also a college basketball snob, which made him not a big NBA fan. And he ended up being an enormous New York Rangers fan and a season ticket holder for many years. As I grew up, I had the basketball thing in my blood, and I loved the NBA from a young age. And listen, I checked my Knicks fandom at the door years ago when I started covering the league because I just felt that was a necessary discipline for me to be as objective as possible.
Yeah, right.
But, listen, my father was a Knicks fan because I was a Knicks fan as a kid. I have a son that's a big Knicks fan. But I can remember sitting there, and I had a scorebook where I would sit and write the Knicks starting five, the other team's starting five, and I would literally keep the book sitting in front of the TV with my father. And I can remember the starting lineup, Tom McMillan, Jim McMillan, Bob McAdoo, Ray Williams, Michael Ray Richardson. Those were the teams that I sat and followed as a kid and shared that with my old man. Now, my old man's been gone for, it's almost 9 years now. But I can only imagine his appreciation of what this would have been and how much he would enjoy this kind of team. Because here's what I'm going to say about the New York Knicks. It's not only what they're achieving and what they're accomplishing, it's how they're doing it. This is, and I'm careful when I make these comparisons, but this is a lot like the 70 team and the 73 team in the terms of the sweet spot of where unselfishness meets discipline. When the Knicks are so unselfish, they don't care who scores whatever baskets. It doesn't matter to them right now. This is truly that the sum of the parts is greater than the whole type of thing. They're doing it all together, but it's also a discipline where when they find a weakness in you, they are going to continue to pick and gnaw at that weakness until it just broke you, until you bleed out. That's how and that's discipline. That's a team that understands we got to keep going to something until they stop it, and they don't get away from it. And it's really, it's a tribute to Mike Brown and his coaching staff, and they've done a super, super job of kind of growing with this group, understanding what's been needed. I give Chris Gent a ton of credit as one of his lead assistants. Rick Brunson has done a great job in assisting his son to adjust on the fly, and Jalen's become a better player for it. Listen, everybody forgets about Jalen Brunson, guys. He made his bones as an off-ball player in this league playing next to Luka Doncic. He's an excellent off-ball player, and outside of Steph Curry, moves off the ball better than any guard in the NBA. Taking him off the ball more. Look how little he brings the ball up for the Knicks. Running the offense through Towns, who promised Chris Jensen, Mike Brown, that everybody would see the ball if you run it through me, and everybody is seeing the ball. But Rick Brunson's gotten his son to buy into not having the ball in his hands as much. And when you're an alpha like Jalen Brunson, and that's how you think, that's a hard adjustment. He's made it almost seamlessly. So the Knicks have everything together right now, and I will tell you this, as great as these two West teams are that we're seeing compete in this Western Conference Final have been, it would be very naive to believe that the Knicks right now, with rest, momentum, chemistry, and depth, that do not sleep on these Knicks in the finals, especially when you're going to get a compromised version of either OKC or San Antonio in the final because of injuries, because of guys being beaten up, because of what this series takes out of both teams. The Knicks are a very, very viable championship contender right now with a very good chance to go and beat one of these teams in an NBA final.
I think their secret superpower is that Brunson didn't go out and leverage $50 million the way so many stars do. He's on $35 million. That depth you talk about, $15 million gets you Josh Hart or I don't know, a collection of guys. I don't know which guys they'd be missing if he went out, but there's only
Bridges.
one. There's Bridges. Yeah,
It
you're
allows
right.
them to pay Bridges.
Good point. There's 3 teams left in the playoffs, and Cat is the only player making over $40 million, and that I think has been a factor in building out these teams.
No doubt about it. Listen, let's talk about Karl Anthony Towns for a minute, because Jalen Brunson gets all the glory as the leader. Without Towns' individual sacrifice, and we can go through it. Okay, Karl Towns doesn't shoot the ball a lot for a guy that's one of the best shooting big men in the NBA. Okay, he's averaged 6 assists a game in the playoffs. He has been the best defensive rebounder on any team in the playoffs, and that includes Victor Wembanyama. He was the second best defensive rebounder this season in the NBA behind Nikola Jokic. And his defense has gone from being poor to literally being very good. When they funnel things to the paint, Towns has become an excellent paint defender. He has changed his game to fit what this team has needed, and his buy-in has been more meaningful than anybody's. Here's another thing that I think is really, really important, and you see people question this, and this happen all the time. Mikal Bridges was terrible in Games 2 and Games 3 of the Atlanta series, to a point that a big narrative in New York is, do you not start Bridges and put Landry Shamet or Miles McBride in the starting lineup? Mike Brown wouldn't even think of it. He put Bridges right back in the starting lineup with the thought, if Bridges can't get it going and is struggling and is not in a great place mentally, I can always go to somebody else. But not starting the guy means that I lose the guy. Think about what would have happened with Bridges and where he would have been, because he is a little fragile mentally and emotionally, if they had not started him and decided to abandon that. Mike Brown's faith in him when he was playing at his worst has actually gotten him in a very fast trajectory to be playing at his best. And that's the kind of thing when you have faith in your guys. And listen, we saw Kenny Atkinson ran away from Dean Wade in Game 4 of the Knicks series, and I don't necessarily blame him, but, you know, when you start to kind of dump guys and lose faith in guys, they lose faith in themselves. Mike Brown stood by Bridges, and by the way, in the same way that Tom Thibodeau did when he had struggles the year before. It's just become commonplace with the Knicks culture. Here's one other thing, and I know that it's been some convenient for some Knicks fans to say, hey, this would not have happened if Tibbs were here. I don't necessarily believe that, and I do think the one guy that is not getting enough credit for the Knicks being where they are is the guy that brought them to this point up till this year, which is Tom Thibodeau, who a culture that the Knicks have a second nature right now in terms of how they guard and how they play for one another. That's something that Tom Thibodeau instilled in this roster, this organization, and this franchise over the 5 years that he was there.
Geltz, we got to leave it right there. Thanks for your time. As always, we love talking basketball, talking draft, and talking playoffs with you.
Always my pleasure, guys. Let's do it again soon. You guys take care.
He's Brian Geltzeiler, SiriusXM NBA radio host and NBA TV contributor. More in a moment. Scott Springer, Cincinnati Bearcats beat reporter for the Cincinnati Enquirer at 9:05. We will talk a spring football tour and Bearcat football with him. Stay with us.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now it's the final days of our Everything's on Sale event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses. Our Memorial Day event ends Monday. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.
Thumbtack presents Tile Trouble. Every single time I use my sink, I make eye contact with the uneven grout on my kitchen backsplash. The crooked corners eye me, and I'm haunted by more tiling questions than I thought possible. What kind of pro can fix a backsplash? Can I replace one cracked tile, or should I replace them all? What if I just use Thumbtack? I can hire top-rated pros, read reviews, and compare prices with a tap, all on the app. Thumbtack knows homes. Download the app today.